Ask a Lawyer show for 2020. I'm doing this one solo this week, no guests, because I wanted to really dive deep on some legal questions that we're getting. You can see that I'm doing this from my fancy giraffe included office that I have out of my home. I've worked a lot of days this week in the office, at least 2. Today I'm working from home. So I thought I'd just do it from right here, and happy to do it. So one of the questions that I've gotten recently, and I'm just going to jump right into Ask the Lawyer questions. And well, before I do the first question, let me just say one other thing is that, so, we started this show when the pandemic started and did it in conjunction with some food giveaways and stuff, in a way to communicate and visit with people because of the pandemic, we don't do that as much. So we thought this would offer a service to people to answer people's legal questions, and we've continued to do it in that vein and for that reason. So we've been very successful in that regard. And then people get a chance to come in and answer any questions they have, any legal questions they have, and they run the gamut of stuff. We've had guests in different subspecialties in different areas, and I've really enjoyed it. So we're going to keep doing this in 2021. We've been talking with some of my marketing partners, Orange Design, and other folks about what this is going to be and what this show should look like and how we can serve and help people. What are the questions that people have? And what we also do is, if you go to the Burger Law YouTube channel or on our website, we take some of these questions and answers and we put them as answers so you can research and find them when you need them. We have FAQ, or frequently asked question, pages on our website. So we do that. But since it's Ask a Lawyer, let me start with a question. And that is, how has the recent litigation that we see contesting or concerning the election affected the real life litigation lawyers like me, or like other lawyers that I litigate with and against? And that's an interesting question, because we have seen, and I have a podcast called Lawyer v. Lawyer, and my co-host Debbie Champion and I recently addressed this issue. She and I have seen an increase in spurious or baseless legal claims. So the idea is, can you make a legal, or can you assert a legal claim without being able to back it up? And we have seen, and I think this is objective, we have seen 50, maybe 60 lawsuits in the last three weeks, where regarding the election, where court after court have thrown them out, saying you don't have any evidence to back up your claims. You can make those claims, that's fine, but we're litigating this quickly, and you don't have anything to back that up. So the question is, can you viably or appropriately make legal claims without having the evidence to back them up? And the answer is no. But how do we get to that question? No. So we know these election challenges are being thrown out, but I guess there's 2 questions. The first question is that bleeding into litigation? And it is. So we are seeing that defense lawyers are seeing more bogus claims, or claims without sufficient evidentiary or legal backup to make those claims in court, filing lawsuits, that kind of stuff. And when the defense lawyers goes, where's the beef from that old commercial, or how do you back up these claims that you're asserting in this petition? People say, oh, I don't have much. The other thing is that we can see, I've seen from defense lawyers increasingly just saying stuff in emails and other stuff that they don't necessarily need to prove later, but they're just trying to get my goat and trying to bug me and that kind of stuff in litigation. So I'm seeing that more and more. The question is that appropriate, and or what do we have to guard against that in the law? And it's a great question, and I know I'm asking it myself, and I got an answer ready. But as I think about the answer, so the United States, and it comes from England, has hundreds of year-old rules of evidence that are designed to keep bogus evidence and fake news out of the courtroom. We have legal rules of evidence about what you can bring in and what you can't bring in. For instance, hearsay. Under the rule against hearsay, you can't bring in a witness to say what someone else said. If you're going to have a declarant, or if you're going to have to say, if you have someone saying something, they have to be the person who says it. You can't come in and say, I heard from my aunt who heard from my brother-in-law that such and that so-and-so did such and such. Or I heard from this other person that the light was red, or there was a hole in the ground, or so-and-so said this. You have to have the person right there sitting there so that they can be cross-examined. That's called hearsay. So you can, if someone says, I saw the traffic light and it was red, they can testify to that. But if they can't say, I saw someone else who said that. And there is hearsay within hearsay. So you may have a document that comes in evidence, but what if in that document it contains a statement that is hearsay? So we have rules against that. We have rules that say that to get documents or evidence in, they have to be accurate. You can't just put a piece of paper into evidence. There's rules about authentication and foundation, where you can lay a foundation for a document and make sure it's authentic so that it can get into evidence. We have ethics rules too. So before I get to the ethics rules, there's a whole host of evidence rules that in law school, you take a whole course on evidence. They teach evidence afterwards in CLEs. Evidence can be really complicated. When we go to trial, we have motions in limine, which are motions to say what evidence can come in and what cannot come in. We have state and federal statutes about evidence. We have rules of civil procedure, both federal and state rules that talk about what evidence can come in and what can't come in. And we have recognized exceptions to that. And there's a whole body of law that goes back hundreds of years. So this advent of recent cases that I talked about and started this question about isn't nothing new. It's been this similar kinds of stuff has been going on for a long time, which created these rules for hearsay and authenticity and these rules about what evidence you can get in and you can't get in the first instance. So the other thing is lawyers have ethics rules, and these ethics rules also go back a long time about candor towards the tribunal, about not signing your name to a pleading that you know that you can't prove, about not making allegations on paper filed in court or otherwise that is not a provable, verifiable thing. So, and there are motions for sanctions. There are different consequences for violating both these truthfulness ideas that are embodied in both ethics rules and in rules of civil procedure, and there's ways to enforce those. So the good news is that our system of litigation, trial, and law already has these rules built into it, which is what even the current administration appointed judges, when they're throwing this out, they're abiding by those rules, and the rule of law is going to not side with one side or the other, but the rule of law and the evidence and the ethics rules that we have ensures or tries to ensure or creates a system so that in courts that we have a fair fight. We have an equal playing field. So a big, huge, powerful company, individual, whoever it is, doesn't get an advantage over the little guy. So we equal the playing field. Everybody's got the same rules, and everybody has to abide by the same rules. And as lawyers, we know that. So we know going in, we're not going to make a claim or state a position or try to make an argument if we can't back it up. So that's my first question and my first answer. So Brennan asked me, so let me go to my column of questions that are stacking up here. And Brennan asked me, the first question is, and thank you, Brennan, can I be fired if my boss says that I'm required to take the, as in whichever one it is, vaccine? Would I have a claim if it's against whatever belief I have? So the answer to your question is, I think your boss can fire you if you don't take a vaccine. Now, it depends in a way, right? There's never a black and a white. But for instance, if you're a restaurant worker or a frontline health worker, and COVID is so easily communicable, and we know that in some people there can be relatively little symptoms, but some people can die. So the results of COVID, or the consequence or sequela from COVID, can be profound as they get. Yeah, absolutely, they can do that. Because now, if you are sitting at home working, and your boss says that, that's less of a tie-in. But remember, under Missouri, Illinois, and most employment law across the nation, an employer can fire you for a good reason, a bad reason, or no reason at all, or make a mistake. Brennan, let me give you an example. Let's say your boss, let's say you work at McDonald's, and your boss finds $100 missing from the cash register, blames you, and fires you. The next day, the boss finds the $100 bill stuck to the bottom of the register. He was wrong. He doesn't have to hire you back. They can fire you for a mistake. If you do not have an employment contract, a written contract signed by both parties where they agree to employ you for a period of time, there are employment contracts. Most people do not have them. It's called employable at will, or you're terminable, or they can terminate you at will, or you are an at-will employee. Those are the words, the magic legal words. They can fire you for a good reason, a bad reason, no reason at all, or a mistake. Now, there are state and federal anti-discrimination laws. So they can't fire you because you're a minority, because you're African American, because you're a woman, because you're old, because you have disabilities. There are certain protected classes where have been created because those people have been historically discriminated against. And so that's why Congress, in its infinite wisdom, has provided those protections. They're 50 or 60 years old now. So they can't do that. But other than that, you don't have a lot of protection. Would I have a claim if it's against whatever belief I have? No, you don't. I mean, can you not? I mean, if you want to be an anti-vaxxer, or you don't believe in the this other stuff, I mean, I don't think you have a claim. There's certain jurisprudence. For instance, on the other way, there's the Hobby Lobby case that Josh Hawley, our senator in Missouri, tries to claim he was associated with. I don't know if that's accurate, but I think he was on the brief. He signed on the brief, or his name's on the brief, but they didn't argue it or anything. But so in that case, an employer cannot provide contraception if it's part of their plan. So it goes that way, but I don't think it goes your way. Should be interesting to see, though. I'm sure we may get those cases. All right, Maya asked this question. What do you make of the fact that Anthony Fauci has emphasized the fact that a Black female scientist helped develop one of the vaccines? Do you think this will have an effect on the percentage of people who are willing to take the vaccine? I think that Dr. Fauci, I think it's good that he did that. I think that there's people getting, I don't know, ruffled. I don't know what they're doing, how people's reactions are. People tend to think of STEM and STEM work as a white male deal. So I think it's great that we highlight that Black females can have leadership roles in science. I think it's validating to a large section of our population. I'm a father of 2 daughters. So I think the female, great. And then, he's also, there's, to the extent he's trying to bridge a gap of trust for people to take the vaccine. I think Dr. Fauci is great. I think everything he does is selfless. For most of what I see he does is selfless. He is there to perform his job, to get to do as well as he can to address the pandemic, to help people. What I think he said, or maybe I just saw it on Saturday Night Live, a great Saturday Night Live last week. this Saturday. But he said, he wants. I think his goal would be that no one knows his name anymore. Everybody gets a vaccine, COVID goes away, no one remembers who he is. That is his goal. And if he needs to highlight an African-American woman who helped develop it, good for him. That's his goal. There's nothing nefarious about it. And it may have an effect on people who will take the vaccine. Minority or African-American people give more trust. I mean, you have a president who is actively, we know what he said in his debate, and we know how the Proud Boys, at his request, he's tweeting out to him, he's going to go see him, literally had a rally there's 4 days ago or 11 days ago, either this Saturday or last Saturday. So this race, even though we're focusing on COVID and some of the election craziness, we still have racism, and we still have, the other thing people don't talk about is the opiate epidemic. No one's talking about that anymore, and opiate deaths are still high. Fentanyls and all these drugs and are still hurting us. We're not talking about those issues, and we should be. So I think I answered that question. Let me talk to you about the next question. Adam asked me, are you worried that more people will push back against wearing masks now that vax are being rolled out? Let me take that first one. I think, Adam, I don't know how can you get more pushback against wearing masks than we have? I mean, Lord, our governor and our president both say, well, poo-poo masks, and say they don't have to wear them. And people are saying that all over the place, and they aren't wearing them. There's pictures now of churches in Missouri and other places of people not wearing masks, and it's so it's already highly politicized, and I don't know how it could be more. You could get more pushback against wearing masks than we already have, but it's this. I don't know if is it the same people not wearing masks who aren't going to want to get a vaccine because they don't trust the government. They don't trust what the scientists are saying. If you don't trust what the scientists are saying to wear a mask, how are we going to trust what the scientists say to wear a mask? I have a little bit of that thought, or a little bit of that concern, and I think it's going to continue. I don't see that going away anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately. There you go. So, we have another question, and it's a great question that is being asked by David Cly. David asks this question. Sorry, I'm jumping on my computer here. I was going to get a copy of my book up. David asked me, what are some of the most important factors that go into a person choosing a lawyer for their case? Do you have advice on how to choose? And I do. Thank you for that question, David. So one of the things that is challenging to someone who gets in a wreck or gets injured is that they don't know how to choose a lawyer. Because how do you do that? How are you supposed to know? You Google it, you see all these ads, or you're driving down the street, you see billboards, you see it on TV. You don't know whether the people who advertise are good. It's hard to figure out. It's really hard to figure out. So there are some things you can do. And one of the things that I will have someone put up in our well, I'm going to do it. I think I can do it too. In our column here is how do you choose a lawyer? I'm going to do it. Control C. I'm going to do it right now for everybody. So I wrote a book a long time ago that I'm putting the link to right now. It's my absolutely essential questions book, and it's a book that I wrote is what are the questions you need to ask before you pick a lawyer or settle your case. And there's certain basic things you want to ask a lawyer when you are considering hiring them. Is it their firm? Are they going to handle your case personally? What is their experience in this area? Have they been doing it a long time? Are they the kind of lawyer that are they a trial lawyer? Let me say it that way. Are they a law? Are they a lawyer that tries cases? Because you recall that you may hold this legal claim, you may have been injured, but ultimately the only way for you to force someone paying you for that injury is to go to trial. Again, no one wants to go to trial. Very few people want to go to trial. Few people say, "Hey, I got in this wreck. A doctor performed medical malpractice on me. I got injured on someone's property. I got injured on the job. I had this product hurt me. This tractor trailer trashed my truck and made me have neck surgery. After all that, now I want to have to go find a lawyer. I want to have to make a claim. I want to have to sue someone, and I have to go to trial." No one wants to do that because you're already experiencing so much stress and so much change in how you roll in life that you don't want to have to deal with that. But you do, and you got to stand up for yourself. And people do, and people regularly come to me and other lawyers like me to get that justice. But ultimately, the point is that that's your biggest. Ultimately, a trial or going to trial is the only power that you have over any defendant who doesn't want to pay you. And oftentimes, so the other part in this book we talk about is the tricks that insurance companies do to try to get you to settle. Hey, you were kind of at fault, so you should take a lesser settlement. You know what? You need to settle this case today or in the next week, because after that, we're not going to offer you any money. You know what? We're only going to pay you your medical for 3 or 4 weeks after your injury. Any medical you have after that, it's not going to be related and you can't cover that. You know what? We don't pay for chiropractic care. We'll pay for the MD, we'll pay for the ER, but no. You know what? I know you had an ER visit, and I know the MRI shows you have a herniated disc, and the doctor said you may need surgery, but settle your case now because we're never going to pay you for that. You know what? The limits of liability in this case are very, very low. You ought to settle this case. You know what? You don't get paid for your wage loss damages. You don't get any damages for your wage loss damages because your employer paid you for that. You know what? You don't get paid for your medical because you have med pay and you have health insurance. So all of those are lies. All of those things I'm saying are lies. Or we need to settle your case quick. So insurance companies, or they'll give you a low amount. I can have the check to you tomorrow. Your case is only worth this. So the insurance company has a litany of lies to try to get you settle the case direct, because they know if you talk to a lawyer like me, then we're going to tell you what the real value of your case is, which often is significantly higher. I do not take a case unless I can add value to it, unless they're going to make more money coming to me, even paying my fee, than they would otherwise. So that I never take a case like that. So insurance companies are going to tell you a bunch of bogus stuff that you need to figure out for yourself. So in terms of choosing a lawyer and I know I answered some of Dave's question. I know it's a little bit of a long answer, but it's something I like to talk about because I get this question all the time. They call us up and they say, I don't know what to do. So does that lawyer try cases? Does that lawyer have a track record? Does the lawyer have experience in this cases? You do not want a lawyer, this is their first rodeo. Has a lawyer done this? Do they know how to handle it? Do they know how to handle this type of a trucking claim, med mal claim, employment claim, workers' compensation claim? Have they experienced? Do they know the medicine? Have they deposed doctors? Do they have an active litigation practice? Are they actively doing this? You don't want to go to your friend or your friend's friend just because he's a friend or a friend of a friend, and if that's not their area. Do not ever come to me to write a will, to represent you in a criminal case, or to do domestic relations work, because I don't know how to do any of that. Similarly, don't go to one of those kind of lawyers for an injury case, or to have a significant recovery or the type of trial work that I do. So those are those things. So ask those questions. So if you get that, go on our link, get that book. I'll give you a list of questions to ask, and I welcome the questions. I have this all the time where someone will call, not all the time, but we have it where, hey, my friend's a lawyer. I said, have him call me. Make sure that vet me. Make sure that I'm good enough for you. I welcome the inquiry. I welcome the examination because I think I hold up against other folks. There's a lot of other good lawyers out there too. I'm not disparaging anyway, and I know no one's accusing me of that. but I don't mind. I don't mind the examination. I don't mind answering the questions. I truly don't, because we try cases. We're always doing depositions. We're always litigating. We're filing lawsuits. We don't just settle cases. My job is to get as much in my client's pocket as I can. I know all the law. I regularly. Oh, the other question is, how much time do you spend honing your talent and making sure that you are a good lawyer? I spend time honing my talent. I go to classes. I teach classes. I teach a lot of other lawyer classes, that kind of stuff. Read their website. Look at it. I think my website has 3,500 Google index pages. Read the reviews. How well and how often is the lawyer reviewed? And I think if you examine our reviews, you'll see that we hold up well for that. I think we're the most reviewed and best reviewed law firm in the area the last time I looked. 461 5-star Google reviews. So, and of course, that'll get dated. We'll get more, but if we keep this video. So those are some of the questions and factors that a person goes and choosing a lawyer. And go with your gut, too. Go with your gut. You listen to yourself. If you like the guy on the end of the phone, good. I put my cell phone number at the bottom of my emails. I call new clients and ask them if they want to be doing it. I work on the cases personally, even though we have a high volume of cases. I have teams that I work with regularly. I've been working with them today. But so it's not only going to be me, but you are going to get people that work with me directly or me directly. You're going to get texts from me directly, emails from me directly on a biweekly basis. We try to communicate. It's especially important in these times. Do you have any advice on how to choose? That's the last question, and David's good question. I think I already said it. I already gave you the advice. Take your time, ask the questions. Don't rush into it. Make sure you feel good about it. Make sure you have someone who's going to fight for you to get the best result you can, and someone whose advice you think you can trust. That's also very important. Let me go to the next question. I think I gave a long answer to that one. Brennan asked me a non-B question. You can't really say icy roads are at fault if there's ice and snow. Do you accommodate for this if you're in a wreck on an icy road? Absolutely. Absolutely, you can. So icy roads are not at fault because we know in the rules of the road, both for regular drivers and for commercial drivers, there's rules for driving in ice and snow. You drive slower. You keep additional distance between you and the car in front of you. You drive slower on bridges and overpasses. Do you ever see those signs when you go to an overpass or a bridge? It says icy roads. Why is that? Well, it's physics. Not physics, maybe chemistry. So on an overpass or a bridge, there's air going underneath the bridge, and it makes the bridges colder than the ground. The ground that we're on right now, if you dig down 10 feet, it's like 58 degrees, right? So that's why caves in the winter are warm and they're cool in the summer. I'm a scuba diver in Bonne Terre, Missouri, in the Bonne Terre mine, and we joke it's cool in the summer and warm in the winter because underneath the ground is a certain temperature. So basically, it's just the same reason why this morning there was snow and the roads and the driveways, they didn't stick, but on the grass it did, because the concrete is warmer than the grass. The grass is warmer than bridges and overpasses. So you gotta accommodate this. I've had many ice and snow wreck cases, and everybody knows they're ice and snow, and the people getting wrecked are the people who don't heed that and slow down. The commercial driver's guide says that people should slow their speed down. Truck drivers should often slow their speed down to about half of what the posted speed limit is. No truck drivers ever do that, and they should sometimes. Let me go to a question that Maya asked. Maya asks, what mistakes or behaviors can clients make that make a case more difficult for you to win? Thanks for the question, Maya. There are some things clients can do that hurts their case. We talk about those. We try to counsel people against them, but let me shoot them to you. You want to have absolute candor in what happened to you. You never want to exaggerate or minimize anything. I got, and it happens both ways. You say, you don't want to exaggerate your symptoms to a doctor, but I got clients all the time that go in and I'm fine. Are you really fine? No, I'm not, but I don't want to whine, especially men. Men do that all the time. The other thing is one mistake you can make is not getting medical care right away. Sometimes people think they'll suck it up and do it, and then it's a month and a half later and they haven't gotten much medical care. Are you hurting? Yeah. I'm missing work. I can't sleep. Why don't you go to the doctor? Yeah, well, I didn't want to meet my deductible, or I didn't have health insurance, or blah, blah, blah. So listen, you understand that the defendant in the case is going to say you didn't get medical care because you weren't hurt and you just made it up later. So you got to go get medical care. Well, that's not true. I'm not making it up. I just don't go to the doctor. Like, yeah, I know, I get it. But so go to the doctor. Go get medical care after a car wreck or a personal injury, a truck wreck, premises, products, doesn't matter the kind of claim you got. Go to urgent care, go to the doctor, get some medical care, document those things, do follow-up care, go to your family doctor after. Ask your family doctor if there's physical therapy you can do, or a chiropractor you should see, or other types of things you can do to remedy that. If they give you a prescription for Flexeril or whatever other anti-inflammatory or pain reliever they give you, go fill it, take the meds, see if it gets you better. Work to get better, work to get healthy. You'll feel better about that. Get your medical care. Other mistakes people can make is not documenting an accident scene. I have other videos about what to do in an accident and that kind of stuff. But get your, take pictures. Take pictures of the accident scene. Everybody's got their phone these days. Take a picture of where the cars are, or the property damage on the car, or the skid mark, or the license plate of the car in front of you. I got in a wreck about a year and a half ago. And the person they hit and ran me, and I followed them for a while. They hit a stoplight. I went out and I took a picture of their license plate, and then they left and I stopped chasing them because who cares? I called the police. I went to try to find them, and I couldn't track the license plate. But on the corner of my picture, there was a sticker for where they had bought the car. So I called the dealership, and I got all their information and found out who my hit and run driver was. I sued him, and I got a judgment against him. So you never know what's going to be in those pictures. Take the pictures. If you're at a scene, get the names of witnesses to an accident, because you think that they're all there. Everybody's sitting there. Everybody's going to show up in the accident report and the police report, and then you're like, they're not there. There was 4 people at this accident that saw the light was red. I get the police report 2 weeks later, no one's there, and you didn't write any of it down. You're kicking yourself. So you got to be your own investigator, get your medical care, and then call a lawyer. And a lawyer like me will tell you if you need a lawyer or not. Most lawyers will. Most good plaintiffs lawyers I know will say, listen, you don't need a lawyer for this one, do it yourself. Or listen, I could really add value to your case. Here's what I can do for you. Here's what I will do for you. And then they follow it up. We can get into the weeds on mistakes or behaviors that a client can make more difficult to win. There's all kinds of stuff. Don't drink and drive. Be safe. Don't break the rules yourself. What are the things you got to be careful about, though? And I'll close out this answer with this, Maya, is that you got to be careful on social media. So the joke is, this is my bubble water. We drink these carbonated waters all the time. Brennan, that was not beer. I know you're probably starting your day drinking already. Just kidding, my friend Brennan. So you got to be careful on social media. It's not that you need to change how you are, who you are, but some people have a different life on social media than it is in reality. That's like the joke, right? Listen, everybody's always out running and having this and this great stuff. Like, my life's that interesting. Well, maybe theirs isn't too. But what you don't want to do is if you're at home injured, you can't work, you can't do that. You don't want your social media feed to show something different. And I'm not saying it should, but don't do that. Because the defendant will get your social media and say, listen, you said that you can't work, you can't walk, you can't do this. And here I have you checking in at Steinberg Ice Skating Rink, you're ice skating, you're going for a bike ride, and you're doing all that. I thought you said you couldn't do that. So let's make sure that your social media reality matches your reality, and don't give information on your social media feed, whether that's Instagram or Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever it is. don't put stuff on there that isn't true, because the defendant will get up and show it, and then that'll uncut your credibility later on in a case. You don't want to do that. You don't want to hurt your own case. Thank you for that question, Maya. I have, going down my feed here, how do bees survive the winter? Thank you, Brennan. So here's what bees do. Did you already ask me this in another one? I don't think so. It's been a while. So bees, like in the summer, in their full, I was hoping you guys would ask me a scuba diving question. I had some great dives at Bonne Terre Mine in Bonne Terre, Missouri. Did you know that Bonne Terre Mine gets accolades all the time about being one of the best scuba diving destinations in the United States? We were just in a Condé Nast Travel magazine of one of the top 6 diving locations in the U.S. During this pandemic, a destination dive thing. We get people from, let's see, on Saturday I had people from Oklahoma and Tennessee and Connecticut. I literally had people from all those places drove in to dive with us. It's a special place. It's a gem in Missouri. People don't realize it's always named one of the top destinations in Missouri. I can if we can put that link up. If anybody's listening, it was in my last email newsletter from yesterday, the Condé Nast article. But message me on Facebook or whatever. If you ever want to go scuba diving with me, I'd be happy to take you out. Back to my question from Brennan, excuse me, I misspoke. Brennan, how do bees survive the winter? The way bees survive the winter is they decrease their population. So bees, in the summer, a bee is going to live between 25 and 35 days, a worker bee, a female worker bee. In the winter, a bee is going to live like 100 days, 150 days, 125 days. So they're going to live longer over the winter. And what they do is they all get in a ball around the queen, and they have all the honey or the sugar and the different food they've stored in the wax, and they sit around there and they stay together for warmth. And they also vibrate. They shake their wings and they vibrate, and that vibration creates warmth and heat. So today, this morning, if it's 30 degrees outside, it's going to be 80 degrees in the hive, in that ball. So they keep it hot. They do this in Minnesota and up in Canada. They do this in Missouri. Now down south, they don't have to worry about it anymore. But basically, that's one of the things that honey does, is it gives them food so that they can hang out around the queen and keep her warm all winter. And then when spring comes, the queen knows, and she looks at how much space she has in her hive, and she starts laying more brood or more eggs in brood. And then she produces more bees, and the population of the hive goes from 500 or 1,000 or whatever it is, 500 back up to the thousands and thousands and thousands of range. And then they produce more honey. When we take honey from a hive, and we did a harvest, I had a good harvest this year. 2020 was a bad year for a lot of other people, most everybody else. It was a great year for bees. 2020 was a great year for bees. Just seeing, I don't know, there's a lot of pollen, a lot of nectar flow. It was very wet this year. We had a lot of water. They had plenty to drink, plenty to eat. It seemed like a good year. When we take the excess honey, but we still leave them enough, and we lift and we weigh and feel how heavy the boxes are to make sure they have enough food for winter. And then I feed them a sugar water concoction, which simulates honey, to give them sugar and water and other nutrients to drink of over the winter. And then lastly, and I know this is a long answer, but I'm not getting a lot of questions, so I have to go longer. I put these sugar boards on the top of a hive. So about January, they're called candy boards. And you take a bunch of candy, you melt it, you put it in a frame that fits exactly on the top of the hive, and you give the bees a bunch of sugar to last them through the end of December into the first couple weeks of March. Maya asks me, policy limits usually cap out at X dollars per person or X dollar per accident. What happens when one person causes an accident that causes damage or injuries to death to several people? What a great question. Excuse me. So Maya asks, what happens when one person causes an accident that causes damage or injuries or death to several people? Well, let's examine that question. Great question. So what that means is that essentially one person was negligent. So if let's say you have a tractor trailer driver that hits a car with multiple people in it, or multiple cars, or let's say you have a case I can talk about this case a little bit. We had an electric shock case where two of my clients were shocked in one event doing some work over in Illinois. I regularly have cases where that happens. You can also have where if a husband or wife is profoundly injured, their spouse loses their husband or wife, the services or that relationship, they have to turn around and care for a brain damaged or paralyzed spouse for the rest of your life. So you can have multiple people injured. The question is, what happens with that? Well, if the liable party has plenty of insurance, then all of the injured people get made whole and get a full recovery. Now, that's a big if, because sometimes people don't. Now, the truck drivers can either have $750,000 or $1 million in coverage. But let me move to another example of a car driver, a person who drives a car and rear ends someone with multiple people and hurts all of them. Well, what a typical policy, lower limit car insurance policy in Missouri or Illinois is $2,550. If you ever see that on your card, take out your insurance card. It'll say what's your coverage. If it's 25/50, that means $25,000 a person, $50,000 per occurrence total. So that means if there's two people injured, each of them could get $25,000. So where the rubber hits the road, pun intended a little bit in this, is how much insurance there is. So if the person has plenty of insurance, you're not worried about it. But if you have 6 people injured and there's only $50,000 to get, that policy is going to get spread pretty thin, and then everybody's going to walk away undercompensated. There's ways to deal with that, and we can talk about sometimes insurance companies put the money into a case and interplead it. I settled a case this year, a very sad case, a death case, and multiple people injured. But the defense and the good defense lawyers said, hey, listen, we got $1 million in coverage. Here it is. We don't know how to divide it, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to hire a really good mediator. We're going to get all the medical. Everybody's going to share each other's stuff, and let's go mediate this case and see if we can get rid of this case for the policy limits. We did, and we were able to. I could tell you stories about that case because there's a lot of things to deal with in the case, but we got significant recoveries into the pockets of, I represented a deceased, a young man, and as well as his girlfriend and the father of his child. So we were able to take care of that as well as we could, and then we were also able to decrease the liens and get as much money in our client's pocket as we could. Let me tell you one other corollary or little side issue with your question, Maya, if I could, is that the other thing is that another kind of insurance people have is something called underinsured insurance. So if you're in the car that was rear-ended and the defendant had some insurance, but not enough to compensate you for your injuries, you can pay for extra insurance called underinsured coverage on your automobile insurance. And what that means is if the person who injured you is underinsured or does not have enough insurance, then your insurance kicks in to cover that. So if you had a $100,000 underinsured policy, the defendant hits you, has $25,000, they pay you the $25,000. Usually there's something called a set-off in underinsured coverage where the underinsured, your insurance company gets a credit for the $25,000, but then you could make up to under that math and that hypothetical, you'd be able to make up to a $75,000 claim against your own underinsured coverage. We make those claims too. In case you thought underinsured claims were easy, they are not. Underinsured, you'd think, hey, it's my insurance company. They're going to take care of me and they're going to pay me. Nope, they're not. They're going to find it hard. You may have to file suit. We file suit in a lot of these cases. We're filing a summary judgment briefing tomorrow in a case where they're contesting the level of coverage, and we're fighting those. I've tried those cases as well. So make those claims, do it. You pay for that underinsured insurance for a reason. But if you think the insurance company is going to roll over and pay you, they're not. That's one of the other, and I know one of Maya's questions, a couple questions ago, what are the mistakes people make? Here's a mistake that I did not. I want to append this to my last answer, if I could, Maya, is that they think that if they have an underinsured claim against their own insurance company, or they have an uninsured claim, different than under. Uninsured is different than under. Uninsured means that the person who rear-ended you had no insurance whatsoever. Then you're going after your own insurance company. The mistakes people make in those kinds of claims are that they don't make the claim. Number one, they say it's my insurance company. I don't want my premiums to go up. But would you rather get 25 grand from your own insurance company and have your premiums go up $50 or not? Yeah, go. You pay for that insurance for a reason. If they're going to try to increase your premiums or do that kind of stuff, go shop for other insurance. Every time I've ever shopped for other insurance, I tend to be loyal. I stick with the same insurance company. But every time I've ever gone out and looked for other insurance policies, I always save money. Kind of like cable, I'm going to switch to Charter, blah blah blah, and then your current cable company all of a sudden has got a better deal for you. It's kind of the same deal. So number one mistake they make is they don't sue it. Number two is they think that they don't need to hire a lawyer because their insurance company is going to take care of them. And what happens is you do all this stuff, you give them all the stuff, they take a statement, they do this, and then they offer you some piddly amount. And you're like, wait a minute, you're my insurance company. I've had blah, blah insurance company for 20 years, and I've never had a wreck. And now you're doing this? Are you kidding me? So that can happen as well. So those are the two mistakes people make with that. So let me turn to a question that David is asking. What dictates actual evidence in a case? For example, personal social media posts, surveillance camera footage, word of mouth, etc. So David's question can be a entire semester course in law school, and they can be these evidence books. It can be this thick, but it is a great question. It's a question that I'm now going to answer. So, evidence is testimony, what people get on the stand, raise their hand, swear to tell the truth, and testify about. You can have the injured person. You can have a defendant who injured them. You can have witnesses about the facts of the accident. I saw this. I knew this. You can have witnesses about, hey, yeah, you know what? My husband, he or my wife, they really can't do this or that anymore. I didn't see the accident, but I can tell you, he can't sleep any night. They can talk about the damages, or they're paralyzed, or this or that. So a person can testify firsthand to that. Another kind of evidence can be documents. So I often say when I'm trying cases that a trial is like a play. Everybody's got a part to play. The trial doesn't rest on any one thing solely. The lawyer has a part to play. The witnesses have a part to play. The documents have a part to play. Videos have a part to play. The law, the jury instructions, etc. Everybody's got a part. In addition to firsthand witness testimony, you have doctors who testify about the medical side of stuff. Another kind of evidence is the documents. So what are the documents? The police report, the contract that you signed, the prior complaint, the 17 prior complaints that this property was dangerous, the 10 other similar incidents of a product defect that the manufacturer should have known about and should have cured the defect, and they didn't, and then it still injured you. You can have documents like medical records, both in a medical negligence case as well as an injury case. What do the medical records say? What do the medical tests say? We have a radiology report. We will also have the film. What does the MRI say? What does the MRI film look like? What does the CT film look like? What's the result of the EMG or the electromyograph show? What does a nerve conduction study show? So there are test results, both on paper, have radiologists reporting them, as well as you can have the actual films themselves. And we'll do that. I will blow up in almost every back injury case I have. I blow up a side view of the vertebrae show, and I have these, and I have other videos on my site about these injuries and blow-ups that I've done. Maybe we should do another one. I haven't done that in a long time about this, and you could show the jury. So people, when you're proving stuff to someone, it's not just because a lawyer told them. The jury needs to see it. They need to be proved. This needs to be proved to them, and they need to be persuaded. They deserve to be persuaded. That's why they're there. So you show the picture of the disc, and you show how it's herniated and it's impinging and pushing on your nerve, on your central nerve, and that's what's causing the pain. That's causing your, you can, those can be very serious injuries. You can't move your arm, you have atrophy, you can't use your hand, you lose your bowel or bladder function. There can be different gradations of a herniated disc, but you show them that, you show them in that. Let me show. So now we have some other things in his question: social media posts, surveillance camera footage. So yeah, surveillance camera. You can get a surveillance camera. I've had it in many cases where a surveillance camera showed the wreck. They showed the slip and fall. They showed the person getting out of the nursing home. The surveillance from a gas station showed a wreck on the street. But sometimes also defendants can go out and do surveillance on a plaintiff to try to show they're lying. That's a statement of the plaintiff. It's interpreted that, and that has to be produced. So if a plaintiff comes in and says, I can't do this, that, or the other thing, and then they have a video, they're caught on a video doing that exact stuff, that can hurt their case. However, similarly, if a plaintiff says, I can't do this stuff, and there's surveillance and it says, you know what, they didn't do any of that stuff, they really are hurt, that really hurts a defendant, because just because you're making a legal claim against someone to hurt you doesn't give the defendant right to invade your privacy and secret and go, sneak around so a defendant has to be careful about that kind of surveillance video. Personal social media posts are discoverable. The defendant's going to get that many of the time because they want to make sure that your claims that you're making in the lawsuit are consistent with reality and how you live your life. You don't want to say that you can't lift more than 10 pounds and then your social media posts are you in the gym, benching 300 pounds every day. That's unfair to the defendant. They should get that. But similarly on the defense side, and I'm using this, I have this in a case now, a truck driver can't portray himself to be a great professional driver where his Facebook page shows that he's cussing and doesn't, and it's just a real aggressive person who says that, or drives crazy, or has social media posts about driving like an idiot, but when the police come, then he gets it all together and stuff. So, you want to look at the defendant's social media as well. Word of mouth, rumor mill and that kind of stuff is not going to come in evidence because that's hearsay in most cases. You need to directly have seen something to be able to testify to it. Otherwise it's hearsay. You can't testify about a rumor mill of stuff. So thanks for that question, David. We're kind of at the end of our time. I've been talking for a while now. Let me just go straight to Bren's last question. What makes a good juror a bad one? Most jurors, if you qualify as a juror, you're going to be a good juror. And the people that they seat in the voir dire, the people that do their civic duty, they're all good jurors. They're all qualified jurors. And that's the case. Now, there are questions. We do have this process called voir dire, or sometimes people call it voir dire, where lawyers like me get up and ask the jury questions to make sure they're best suited for that case. Doesn't mean they're not a qualified juror. They are a qualified juror. The question is, and the question that lawyers like me ask in selecting a jury, are they best suited to try a case in that case? In a criminal case, if you are the victim of 10 crimes, and you've been assaulted in this stuff, you may not be the best juror for a criminal case involving a similar crime. Similarly, if you're a police officer and you see crime all the time, and you believe and you're very pro prosecution, you may not be the best juror in a criminal case for the defendant. However, those two examples of people, they would have no problem to sit in a civil case and someone awarding damages in a case. But in a civil case, if you're a defense claims adjuster and your job is to not pay people money in insurance claims, maybe you should be maybe you're not the best juror in an injury case. Maybe you're better suited for a criminal case. So all jurors are qualified. the questions that lawyers try to pose to jurors is to see if that juror is best qualified for the actual for the case that is at issue that day. Well, folks, I see I'm out of time. I wanted to thank everybody for watching this at this season, this year, this week's Ask a Lawyer. We're going to have another show, not next week. We're going to take off for Christmas, but we're going to have one, our last show of the year, in a couple weeks. Thanks everybody for listening this year. I really hope that my answers to questions that have helped people this year, I've gotten a lot of good feedback. I think they are. That's the purpose of this. It's not just to show off the giraffe in my fancy office here today. It really is to answer questions. So remember too, and I try to say this, we do answer questions for free. So if you have other questions, email me at gary@burgerlaw.com. I try to answer everybody's questions for free. Try to give people the kind of legal advice or information they need. You know, a knowledgeable public is a better public. We want everybody understand and appreciate what their legal rights are. Everybody have a Merry Christmas. Everybody have a happy holiday. If you don't celebrate Christmas, I look forward to seeing anybody who's watching in a couple of weeks. Everybody stay safe out there. It's a rough couple weeks for Corona. So stay safe and protect yourself. Thanks.